excuse me.
Yes?
Yes, is this the, D train coming now?
The D train? Let me see.
What?
Yes, it is definitely the D train. Excuse me.
Transportation and subway design is highly influenced by destinations. The TTC chooses transit stops that are supposed to represent highly dense areas dependent on rail, bus, and streetcar access. These areas are also intended to be places where large numbers of people can be expected to arrive and leave. Otherwise, an undertaking as expensive as a subway station would not be required. However, many stations in Toronto are underutilized and not strategically located. Consequently, the result is subway stations that are not busy and fail to promote the use of public transit. An example of such a station is Bessarion, located at 798 Shepherd Avenue East. Bessarion is the most underused station offered by the TTC. Bessarion is the result of decision-making that was not influenced by proper data and displays how lower-density neighborhoods usually are not as dependent on public transit. Although Toronto may have underused transit stations, it is also home to the most frequented transit hub in North America. Union Station is a prime example for good use of location and destination. Union Station provides commuters with many forms of transit and also situates the commuter in the heart of the downtown core. The area is highly dense and offers people access to many different types of land use. In order for transit stations to be successful, they must offer multiple types of transportation and access to a variety of land uses. The destination is equally as important as the service. Therefore, Union Station executes a good destination, whereas Bessarion fails to. Density is a concept that both affects and is affected by land use. While transit is considered a staple of dense urban areas, allowing large numbers of people living in close proximity to get around, the same does not hold true for less dense areas. Introducing transit in areas where the density is so low that it cannot be feasibly delivered leads people to think of it as a last resort and not a convenience. However, transit nodes can sometimes develop in areas where reliable transit exists, creating pockets of high density in otherwise sprawling locales. Downsview Station is a good example of an area in which transit is the resort of people with no other choice. A quick look around the station reveals most people waiting for buses are students at York University. For these people, Downsview is simply a waypoint on their way to school. A look around outside the station reveals wide open spaces with little density to speak of. There are some high-rise residential developments, but they predominantly take the form of the tower in the park, or in this case, tower in the parking lot model. When the subway extension to York University is finished, Downsview Station can expect to see its ridership decline significantly, as it cannot serve the local population due to the low density of the area. In contrast, Eglinton Station is an example of the development of the aforementioned nodes of high density that have a tendency to form around areas of confluence of transportation networks. Although pretty far from downtown, the area's location at a main intersection as well as along a well-serviced transit route create a mini downtown in the area with condo development, businesses, and retail of all sorts clustered around the intersection of Yonge and Eglinton. Walk just 3 blocks away though, and you're basically in suburbia. This is the influence that efficient, well-implemented transit can have on an area. Diversity in land use and proximity to transit also leads to increased ridership and a more useful transit network. A mixture of retail, business, and housing means that one area might be traveled to for many different reasons. In addition, a mixture of housing stock and therefore income levels also increases transit effectiveness as it provides a wider range of people to whom transit might be attractive. Bathurst Station is a good example of diversity because there is a strong mixture of land use and an array of diverse housing types. Directly outside of the station, there is a mixed, diverse housing stock. As you proceed north, the housing diversity is most evident as there are semi-detached houses, apartments over commercial, and row housing. South of the station sees a strong mixture of land use, including both horizontal mixing with commercial buildings located adjacent to residential buildings, and vertical mixing within a building, such as with commercial on the ground floor and residential above. The east-west stretch along Bloor Street sees a diversified land use mix with the Bloor Hot Dog Cinema, restaurants, markets, shops, and the iconic Honest Ed's. The B Street condominiums are another form of housing that will soon be included in the area and will further mix the population. Glencairn Station is a poor example of diversity because of its lack of diverse housing stock. As you proceed east of the station, the only form of houses that can be witnessed are single detached homes. This results in a uniformity of demographic profiles in the area. Since these homes are single detached, the likelihood of residents being higher income is high. The same housing stock is seen south of the station. Land use begins to mix at Marley Avenue, but it is predominantly horizontal mixing with local variety stores and small restaurants. Distance to transit is very influential on the mobility behaviors of people in terms of the methods they choose when traveling. It also affects and is affected by land use. In the first example, the distance to a rapid transit line is farther and therefore inclines the commuter to resort to the use of multiple forms of transportation to reach their destination. Due to the farther distance from transportation, the land use is evidently less dense and takes the form of suburban-built form. In the second example, the distance to rapid transit is closer and therefore provides the commuter with an opportunity to access transportation with less effort. Due to the close proximity of transportation, land use is evidently denser and takes the form of high-rise and multi-use built form. The design of a subway station plays an important role for commuters. It can say a lot about the community it's in. For those who commute daily, a good design also has the potential of brightening the atmosphere and attracting more commuters. Museum Station is an example of a subway station sporting a good design that stands out from the other stations in the subway network. It is bright and has supporting columns made to resemble the ancient Egyptian deity Osiris, among other things. With just a glance at the station, subway riders are able to get an idea of where they are based on the unique ancient Egyptian themed design. On the other hand, York Mills Station is unfortunately an example of mediocre design. It looks like a typical subway station with no outstanding or unique design elements. The walls look dirty and unfinished, giving one the impression minimal effort was put into its design and maintenance, detracting from its potential to attract ridership.
Okay, so how busy is a day at Bloor Station during rush hour traffic?
During rush hour, it's hectic. It's you barely fill up your supply. Continue for selling, and it's busy all shift long, whether it's selling or question or
Yeah.
And
Okay.
there's basically no break.
Now, how does that compare to over here at Bazarian?
Bazarian, my sales compared to, or question even, you get the odd question where maybe IKEA is,
Okay.
or Canadian Tire. That's the main questions here. Other than that, your sales are a tiny fraction of what it is, of course, for Young and Bloor. I might see an average of 20 customers a night.
Wow. So how long is that shift?
My closing time is 2:45 in the morning.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the latest ones,
Yeah.
which are located on the Shepherd line. The late ones are the end stations of each line.
Okay, and so 20 customers compared to how many in Bloor Young?
Roughly.
Hundreds. Virtually hundreds. I mean, go there during MetroPass time, which is the last day of the month. It starts a little earlier for some smarter people, but the majority buys their passes on the last day of the month, and you virtually have a lineup all night.
Oh, wow. Okay.